Greetings, folks. Phil Gallagher of ThrabenU here for another direct-to-YouTube special. This one brought to you by Puchepo, who has donated to see an Orzhov Dreadnought deck list in action. So they sent me a couple of different ideas, and I kind of hybridized them all into a list that I think had some advantages and disadvantages over various other ones. One of the big things that I had to change is that Illusionary Mask, I forget exactly what it's called, is super bugged on Magic Online and doesn't really work. And so I didn't want to just make another league where oh, we encountered the bug, let's file for reimbursement. And so I did some adjustments. Essentially, we have an A plus B combo deck where we have 12 copies of A and 12 copies of B. We have Torpor Orb, new Strixhaven card, Strict Proctor, and Hushbringer as ways to stop enter the battlefield triggers from happening. And then we can make a 9/8 flying Trampler, a 12/12 Trampler, or a 7/7 Trampler for a discounted cost. The rest of the supporting cast of the deck is small. We're really looking to abuse the London Mulligan to try to assemble A plus B and deploy it as quickly as possible. Now, you'll see a really weird split between Mother of Runes and Hymn to Torok here, and that's because I don't know which one of those things is better. I theoretically want to disrupt my opponents a little bit, and that's why Hymn to Torok is in the deck, and it's also something that plays really well with Dark Ritual in early Hymn to Torok, especially if you have it in the same hand as a Thoughtseize, is just absolutely disgusting. But Mother of Runes as a way to protect these large creatures that I'm putting into play seems sweet as well. So rather than pick one or the other, I decided to split them. I'm not sure if that actually ends up being more effective or not, but it felt right. Now, in terms of the mana base, one thing that I added that I think is probably going to be really good is actually Volrath's Stronghold. I think if we get a Torpor Orb effect in play, and we just produce a 12/12 Trampler every turn forever, that probably wins the game versus most decks. The sideboard is geared very specifically to deal with a couple of things. So number one, I want to be able to answer creatures. In game one, my plan for opposing creatures is smash them with my bigger creatures. But in the post-sideboard games, we want to make sure we have answers to things like Uros and Delvers and whatnot. Number two, I want to be able to have some game versus opposing combo, and so our Deafening Silence and Necromentias are meant to do that. Necromentia has been pretty impressive in these Dark Ritual decks as a way to just steal games versus decks that have a limited number of win conditions. And then we just have a few things for fair decks, the Plague Engineers, the Fractures, and the rest of pieces, sort of an overlap card between fair and unfair. I'm really excited to trying out this build with the black. The red version that I tried last time around, the red was not really all that good. It didn't add that much, but now we get an ability to grind and disrupt with black, as well as just have another redundant part of the combo, and I hope that ends up being pretty good. Alright, if you're excited about this one, please consider throwing me a like before the video gets started. That sort of thing really helps out with the analytics and helps the success of my channel. And if you're really enjoying my content and watching regularly, please consider subscribing, maybe even ringing that little bell that turns on notifications. Okay, I have kept my hand, and now the question is, how do I play it out? Am I fetching basics? Am I fetching scrublands? I think either way, starting with a basic swamp before I have more information is probably fine. Okay. Get fucked by Torpor Orb. Sorry, M. We'll take the Mother of Runes and then play Torpor Orb. It'll be sick. I would like to just draw another land this turn. Did not succeed. Alright, do I ignore my white cards? How many, white cards do I realistically have? If this Torpor Orb sits in play, I don't actually care that much that I can't cast my white cards. I'm just going to grab a Swamp. That way I can cast Hunted Horror next turn, assuming I don't get Rishadan ported. Nice 3-1. Oh, nice Thalia. Sure. This is working. What do you think my opponent's thinking about? You think they're thinking about buying some blue cards? Alright. I need another mana in order to be able to cast these Eater of Days. Yeah, having 12 main deck Torpor Orb effects versus my opponent is pretty sick. Sure. Unfortunately, I believe it is correct to play a white card here. Alright. Alright. I am probably going to have a wealth of riches as far as this matchup goes. Like, Plague Engineer, Fracture, and Swords to Plowshares are all playable cards. But I don't know that I'm actually going to want to cut that many things because it feels like my main deck is just good. Maybe assume Hymn to Turok is expendable. I think I want these very badly. What's my worst card after this? Is it Bob? Is it Thoughtseize? If I trim Eater of Days? I don't know how to sideboard, which is surprising, because, you know, I understand Death and Taxes. But, like, I just have so many bangers in this matchup. Like, yeah, I don't know if I actually sideboard anymore. Like, the Swords to Plowshares theoretically are quite good. Well, my Dreadnoughts and Eater of the Days are colorless, and so removing Mom is less important. Mm, submit? I don't know if I'm supposed to like play any more cards than this. So keep. This is very good if it draws a land, and otherwise it does nothing. I think I'll mulligan this. And is awesome. To keep 5 of these. My best draw would be a basic plains. Because then I could, like, play out this mom without exposing myself to a wasteland. Yeah, I think the way I lose is just, like, getting wastelanded, just generally in this matchup. Also, being on the play is huge so that I can get in under 2 drops like Stoneforge. Alright. Now I have a giant creature next turn. Again, my opponent having wasteland so they can, like, wasteland plus port me is very scary. Sure. Okay. Yep. Alright. Well, I'm going to make a billion power. Alright, I made 19 power. Your move, Yugi boy. Uh, this colorless blocker is also just huge because all my opponent can't just, like, crash in and easily get Jitte counters. Sure. Alright. How many creatures am I attacking with? I can give the Hunted Horror pro-white and then swing in with both of my creatures. That gets 19-ish damage in. And I can just try to put my opponent on a 2-turn clock. That may not be better than being more conservative. I could just attack in with the Dreadnought. My opponent blocks with Thalia. They lose Thalia. They have to spend 2 mana re-equipping Jitte. They attack in. Hunted Horror blocks and kills whatever they're doing. Yeah, I'm good with that. And then I can hold Hunted Horror back, and I theoretically have 2 different colored things held back. Yep. I think I'm good with that. No blocks. Take 12. That's fine. Nice 2/2. I guess I can just do all of this stuff first, like check and see if my opponent has Swords to Plowshares. That should be about the only thing I care about is the Swords of Plowshares or Path to Exile. Yup. Nice. This sort of hand is bound to happen from time to time, where I just draw too many pieces of one side of the deck. This hand can go turn 1 Dark Ritual into Bob and hope to get there in that regard, but since I'm missing both land and Torpor Orb effect, I think I mulligan this one. Let's go to 5. Luckily, I think the London Mulligan treats this deck really well because we make a lot of power for not very many cards. This time I'm just going to keep this hand. Yeah. It's possible the land is better than the Strict Proctor there. It's a little weird that we have both of our Hymn to Turoks when we only have 2 of them in the deck. Alright, we were playing against a Delver deck. Wasteland will be very good against me. But since I'm already exposed, might as well try to make the best of it here. I think I try to drain my opponent of resources with these hymns and then try to resolve a Hunted Horror as just a faster clock than what my opponent can do. I don't want to play the Strict Proctor into a Daze this turn. Alright, so my opponent has a Force of Will. I'm kind of getting the feel that they might be the, what is it, Iterative Experiment? Iterative Explosion? The weird blue-red Impulsey card. I think I just run this back. Like, I know they have a Force. This is a rough start to beat for any deck. Like, when the Delver deck just starts on turn 1 Delver with at least 3 counter spells, that's bad news bears. Just let it resolve. Nothing bad will happen, I swear. Also, if you're not familiar with my rule, anytime I see my opponent play a super suspect card that I don't understand why it's in their deck, I should probably try to stop that thing. Because there's usually a reason why it's in the deck. Yeah. Okay. Expressive iteration. All right. My turn 1 through 3 plays have been dealt with. I would like to draw maybe a Torpor Orb, followed by a land, preferably in that order. Yep. All right. Now we wait. We don't have to wait long, because that Delver probably means I'm dead in 3 turns. Assuming some sort of lightning bolt based action gets in there at some point, or my opponent finds a Sprite Dragon. Oh, or I get stomped. Yep. Yeah, this just means I'm going to be dead next turn. So I think I need to find a Torpor Orb effect this turn. Oh, my opponent didn't hit a land drop for the Bone Crusher Giant. Alright, I get one more turn, at least in theory. Alright. I'm back more or less in the same spot as last turn, but now my life total is even more precarious. I think I'm also not really on outs anymore. Actually, I guess I can draw Hushbringer specifically. Yikes. What a fucking Delver start. Triple counterspell plus double Wasteland plus turn 1 Delver. Fuck me. Alright. Alright, what do we have for blue-red Delver? Probably just 4 Swords to Plowshares. Plague Engineer is something I normally might consider versus Delver, but I don't think I want to board down too many cards. Let's go down the Hymn to Torox. And down Bob's. I don't want to flip these 4-drops to Delver. Or, sorry, I don't want to flip those 4-drops to Bob versus blue-red Delver specifically. Like, I'll keep some of them in the deck because I don't really want any of this other stuff. Actually, is him better than Bob? Him might be better than Bob. Might be better than Bob on the play. I think on the draw, him loses too much value. I'm not 100% sure here, though. Nope. Yep. I'm going to be bad against Wasteland. And I think I probably don't get to play around it in all likelihood. Unless I draw another fetch land or basic here. What are we pausing for? Alright. Are you stifling? You're not stifling. If one of these dies, I want the Strict Proctor to die. The Hushbringer gains life, and so it's more valuable. Strict Proctor also doesn't die to Forked Bolt, specifically, if that's a card that's still in my opponent's deck. I am making my opponent think about something here. If possible, I would like to play in a way that doesn't result in me getting 2-for-1'd by a lightning bolt. For example, I don't want to cast a Phyrexian Dreadnought and then have my Strict Proctor bolted with it on the stack. The last one got forced, which makes me think they don't have Lightning Bolt. They could have Daze. They would have dazed last turn. YOLO! Oh, they could have Stomp, though. That's fine. I still think I go for it. Maybe the difference between 2 and 3, like specifically for Stomp, was a reason to play Hushbringer first, despite the lifelink. Sure. Second Wasteland there is a little rough. Like, I have these 4-drops in my deck. I think I need to keep them in my deck. Like, they block Delvers that they kill in about 2 turns. And I have 12 ways to enable them. Uh, 100% the Ethereal Forager is getting taken here. Oh shit. Yeah, no, that's not. Yeah, okay. The reason why I take the Ethereal Forager is, like, even though I have an answer to it, I don't want that thing getting out of control, because if that thing gets out of control, I will lose. That seems like very poor sequencing. Like to play a Volcanic Island prior to a Ponder when they have a Polluted Delta in hand. My life total is going up, and my opponent's life total is going down. I believe that means I am winning. Crash in, opponent will play Brazen Borrower, all swords to Plowshare it. Seems fine. And if my opponent fights over it, it means I have other runes that will end up living. That undid 3 turns of Hushbringer attacks. Unacceptable. Aggressive iteration. This is my opponent's big chance to answer the Mother of Runes before things get gross. Yeah. I mean, I'm obviously going to try this. Especially after my opponent used that Abrade. Nice. I don't know how many Abrades my opponent is packing, but I would guess approximately 2. Alright, you can answer that. Can you answer the Dreadnought? Alright, they had a second Abrade. The answer was yes. Yes, they could. I don't think I want to give them 2 3/3 green centaur creature tokens with protection from black currently. I think I'm just gonna wait this one out. I'm not under any pressure. I'll find a Torpor Orb effect, and then I'll play some very, 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 very scary things. My opponent has literally gone through half of their library, though. Like, the iterative expression is digging pretty deep. That's pretty good. I guess I can start thinking about doing marginal thinning. I really do not want to draw lands. And it is imperative that I create a creature soon. That'll do. Do I just pass the turn? Daze very specific. Well, it's Daze and Lightning Bolts. I'm no coward. The Hunted Horror is less bad against a removal spell on the Strict Proctor than some of these other ones. Unless my opponent bounces the Hunted Horror, like, our stuff can just kind of stare at each other. Alright, I am probably going down here. But at the same time, I just, like, can't concede here because, like, I just have something that can 2-turn clock my opponent if I manage to get it into play. Also, my opponent will probably just kill me next turn. Yeah, I think I'm on a Torpor Orb or Bust situation, and my opponent has 4 cards in hand. So I am not expecting my stuff to resolve. Let's Thoughtseize them and just get a feel for what they have left over that I haven't seen, and then I'll concede. Like, I'm taking 5 damage anyway, so even if I do the thing... Yeah. Alright, now that I know about Young Pyromancer, Plague Engineer becomes slightly more attractive. Oh, right, but I'm dead. Okay. My opening hand doesn't really do anything here, so I think I'm going to go ahead and ship this one. Yep, this sounds great. I think I'll just throw back the Strict Proctor. Torpor Orb's harder to get rid of than Strict Proctor is. You got over there. My opponent also did mulligan. Just by the way, they're on 6. So I will be leading on Polluted Delta, Swamp, Thoughtseize, unless my opponent does anything that drastically changes my mind. Or, you know, like I die on turn 1. Okay, my opponent is Thoughtseizing me. Which probably means I lose my Torpor Orb, but I might lose my Thoughtseize. I've lost my Thoughtseize. We could be playing against Ant, could be playing against a Doomsday deck, or something like that. Could just be playing against a control deck. Hard to say at this stage. Sequencing? Question mark? Well, they are a Dark Ritual deck. That sequencing makes sense. Alright, you Thoughtseize me. I assume Torpor Orb goes here, but then that lets Black Bob do its thing. Like, if my opponent is Doomsday, they really need to take Torpor Orb. If they're not, they can take Bob. I don't think my opponent is playing Wasteland. Alright, goodbye Infernal Tutor. Alright, so my plan is to make a large creature and kill my opponent before they can storm off. Playing got harder. Damn, that was gonna be one of my best possible draws. The difference between 15 and 16 is nothing with this deck. I'm gonna go ahead and just fetch to thin and call that that. Bottom bottom. Bob is a fantastic pickup because I don't need that much. Like, a Hymn to Torok, a Thoughtseize, a Torpor Orb, all these things probably end up putting me into a fantastic position. I am dead to a relatively small storm count, though, which is unfortunate. I won't fetch to thin now that I have this Bob in play that's also mucking with my life total. Or 5/6 mana? Yeah, I can do stuff with 6 mana. Oh, we got 2 Dark Rituals. Go ahead and attack. Then play my Hunted Horror. Weirds me out that my opponent just grabbed Volcanic Island. I have 10 damage next turn, which doesn't kill my opponent. It will stop fetching, and it will shut off ad nauseum based lines. Three, four, five? Flex? Let's flex. Well, I guess I'm going to play the Dreadnought first. On the off chance that my opponent could have removed my stuff. Just skipping my next 2 turns would not be cash money. Vernal Tutor for Lotus Petal. Okay. Oh no. Am I exactly dead to that? That is the tragedy of the century. Opponent is a bully. That's so disappointing. Alright, I want this, I want these. Rest in Peace is something I can consider, but it's don't think I want these. I think I will trim on some of those. I want stuff that hits play earlier. Then I think I don't mess around with Rest in Peace. I think I just like try to kill my opponent or stick a Bob or whatever. So if I go turn 1 Dark Ritual Necromentia and my opponent did not board in Empty the Warrens, I just win. So I think I keep this. Alright. So my opponent has... Well, alright. I guess I should just, like, screenshot that. So I'm guessing I should now expect Empty the Warrens to be in the deck. Let's board in some Plague Engineers over Eater of Days. Yeah, let's call it good after doing that. This hand is too slow. This hand is just right. Dark Ritual Thoughtseize Bob is just a beautiful opener. And even if I get, like, duressed or something, I still have a strong opening hand. Oh. Alright, let's see if my opponent has one of their 2 Veil of Summers. Seems likely. Sure. That's fine. I still get to, like, put a Bob into play. I can him next turn. And now I only have 1 Veil to worry about. That's totally fine. Sure, sure. Delicious water. I think it's worth just fetching to do this rather than play Urborg. Ooh, Cabal Ritual and Infernal Tutor. I consider that a great success. That's alright, Bob drew some cards already. Hello. It's Bob's sexy brother. Conveniently is also named Bob. You have your other Veil of Summer. Nope. I'll just take the empty. I've done a pretty good job of shredding my opponent's hand. There are some Past in Flames based situations that can happen that are a little spooky. Alright. So this probably isn't ad nauseum. Oh, nope. Past in Flames. They have enough for a kill? Oh, there was the Cabal Ritual that I took earlier. Yep. Unfortunate that they found Infernal Tutor there. Alright. GG. Okay, so this is a hand where it's a question of speed. I have a Thoughtseize, into a Torpor Orb, and 3 lands and 2 Eater of Days. Is this acceptable? Let's try it. I would like a hand that's faster than this in the dark, but like, I have everything I'm looking for. And I can also fetch some basics at the beginning here. Oh, it's very good that I can fetch basics, by the way. Alright, Archon or Reality Smasher? Probably Archon. I don't want to face down that thing next turn if my opponent draws a soul land. I should have thought about playing this because of Archon specifically. If my opponent top decks another copy, I should have just played and fetched. Not punished, but good habits and whatnot. Don't even mind censor me either. Nice. Also, for reference, do I have exactly 3 basics, or is it a weird distribution? No, I have Plains, Plains, Swamp, Swamp. Okay. Oh, I fetch with Flooded Strand, which is why I couldn't see the second. Alright, so I'll take a little damage this turn. That's fine. Do not believe that I want to cast this Thoughtseize. Use the better colorless deck now. Just a walking ballista. That would be rough. Seven? Is it a 6 mana play? What are you doing? Please. Okay. So, I can just attack my opponent for 18 next turn and kill them. And as long as I don't take a point of damage from Silent Clearing here, that should be fine. My opponent can put 1 counter on Walking Ballista, and I can take 6 this turn. So my opponent has to all-in attack at me and hope I, like, mess up my combat math. Or I guess I could, like, top deck a Reality Smasher. Alright, I guess I'll draw a card. Like, I can look and see if there's anything I can do to beat a Swords of Plowshares. And I think I just Crash Hand, then just play a Strict Proctor post-combat if things don't work out. Nice. Whew. Alright, Swords to Plowshare seems great. Plague Engineer seems good. Assume Hymn to Turok is low on the draw. Assume Mother of Runes is not great. It can be okay. Then I need to trim 2 other cards. Bobs, maybe? Bobs are really good against like the white weenie side of the deck and not so good against the Eldrazi side of the deck. Let's do 2 Bobs out on the draw, and I think I want the Bobs back in on the play. Not 100% sure though. Three, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana, but no ability to have a Torpor Orb effect. I need to mulligan. Yep, this is a turn 1, 12, 12. I accept. I think I throw back the Hushbringer. Oh, Savannah. Are they playing my Brushland Maverick deck? No. That didn't have Archon. Alright. Got a Swords to Plowshares. Damn. I am at 32 life, though. Sure. I'll just make some land drops for a little while. My land's entering play tapped here is a little rough. On basics, though, right? On basics. Okay. Oh shit, there's a problem. If I ever lose this Torpor Orb, my opponent can Eldrazi Displacer blink my Eater of Days and cause me to skip all the rest of my turns, which is fucking hilarious. We're just gonna hope that doesn't happen. I fear no disenchant. Cost you life if you want to tap this. Yeah, that's fine. Now it's slightly less fine. So I want to cast the Bob on my turn, and the Swords to Plowshares on my opponent's turn. Remember, I only get one. Each player can't play more than one spell each turn. And this can't target itself. Okay. What is it you have? Another Eldrazi Displacer. That's mighty annoying. Yes, I will just do this now. You don't want two active Eldrazi Displacers that can, like, be activating on each other. It's a bad time. So my opponent, because of their own Archon, now doesn't get to play an Eldrazi Displacer, which seems like a very large punt. I also think you don't want to leave Bob around for, like, exactly this reason. I don't think my opponent is playing very tightly over there. I don't mean that as an insult, rather just as a statement of fact. Yeah, if I draw another land, I will cycle through both of these this turn. Yes? What are you doing? Yeah, now that costs you life because of that weird thing you did with Bob. Alright, another Dreadnought. That will be my one spell for the turn. I assume my Dreadnought is going to get tapped. An Oblivion Ring. Okay. That doesn't do too much. It does stuff. I think I'll still be okay. This is 10 damage. I might not be okay. So my Dreadnought gets tapped. I can attack for 3. I would get killed on the backswing. I can get rid of my Bob here. Take 5. I think I need the Bob. I think the Bob dies next turn. I'm just going to go ahead and take this and play a more defensive role. Alright, the Phyrexian Dreadnought gets tapped. Then I have 3 blockers. I think I needed to draw another fat body here. Yeah, the trample from Reality Smasher just gets me. But I guess I can make my opponent do the clicks and just confirm that they know what they're doing, because they punted a couple of different ways with their Eldrazi Displacer activations. Alright. Me that you can kill me. Can't put up enough toughness to get through Reality Smasher's trample damage. But I at least put the fear in my opponent, and that's good. Eldrazi Displacer is a nuisance. It's also colorless, so like not even Mom helps. On the play, I can consider these Hymn to Turoks. My opponent has Swords to Plowshares to give me a bunch of life. I think Bob also becomes better than I thought. Maybe I don't Plague Engineer. I think my opponent has boarded out a bunch of their X1s. So like this is something that can trade with a Reality Smasher, but that's about it. I think I just junk that. I mean, I assume there's Thought-Knot Seers in there as well. But I think the plan is just like make the big dumb creature quickly and hope that it runs my opponent over. Yeah. It's very possible that I don't lead on Torpor Orb, Dark Ritual Torpor Orb, Phyrexian Dreadnought, and I instead Thoughtseize once this turn. Like Thoughtseize once this turn, then go Dark Ritual Torpor Orb, Dreadnought, Thoughtseize the following turn. My opponent has something like Chalice of the Void that I haven't seen yet, and that resolves. It would be very bad for me. My opponent is going to 5 to 4. That probably just means I cast a Thoughtseize on turn 1 off basic swamp. And then I just do it all on turn 2. Yeah, I like that plan. No need to YOLO it here. Yeah. Take the Eldrazi Displacer. Leave you with an Oblivion Ring you can't cast, and then I will do disgusting things. I will take your Oblivion Ring. You can have Walking Ballista and Wasteland. We'll play Torpor Orb. I will play a 12/12. You have 2 draw steps. I find it very hard that Walking Ballista for 1 is much better than just wastelanding me, but I don't know. Maybe there's a Basilisk Collar in there. Please don't, like, top deck a Basilisk Collar and do that. I would be very sad. Well, I guess they're all. Okay, so if they block with everything, I just like let that happen and keep a Swords to Plowshares, right? I'll still get the Leaves the Battlefield thing, which is super cool. I will say that their Walking Ballista, that 1 point of toughness does very much matter. I trample! I trample! I think our opponent is not well versed in the intricacies of their deck. All right, this round we're not going to be playing sort of a like turbo strategy. We're just gonna like play a Bob on turn 2, play one of these on turn 3, and Eater a Days on turn 4. Gonna gear up for a slightly longer game. Could be playing against Delver again. Could be playing against a Show and Tell deck. Playing against a control deck. Could be playing against Doomsday. Too hard to tell currently. But regardless of what my opponent is playing, I like doing this. Feels sort of like my opponent is on combo. Doomsday? Yep, control. I'm not yet confident enough in my opponent not having Wasteland to fetch a scrubland there. And I should basically not need white unless I want to do something like cast 2 of these at the same time. What you got for me? Opponent might be over there trying to figure out like why on earth Hushbringer is in my deck. And I would not fault them for that. Alright, my opponent has played a Verdant and is fetching. We might be looking at some sort of bug control deck. Yeah, Leovold, that's fine. I think Hunted Horror is the bait. And then we actually try to resolve the Phyrexian Dreadnought. Nice! Nice! Opponent might be over there wondering where it all went wrong. Deck is great. Toxic Deluge for 12. This deck is so frightening. Very happy with how this turned out. Man down. Man down. Alright. Very glad I did not fetch Scrubland earlier, by the way. My opponent Toxic Deluge is for 7. Either one of these small idiots will just kill my opponent. Alright, I trample. You don't draw a card. Alright. So if I attack in with the 7/7, my opponent probably blocks with both Tarmogoyf and Leovold. And I could trade Hushbringer for Baleful Strix. I have 5 total mana, which is a little awkward. I would like to play this Eater of Days. I think I just do it pre-combat. Am I actually okay with trading off the Hunted Horror? Yeah. I think I am. If I attack like this, I can push some damage in with Bob. What if Baleful Strix blocks? It blocks Hunted Horror, though. No, then my opponent takes a billion trample damage. No. Let's do this. Like, now I have a Bob and another backup Bob, plus another lethal threat. Oh, wow. Just straight up Shardless Agent. Now, notably, the way Cascade works is Cascade happens when it's on the stack, so a Torpor Orb effect wouldn't be stopping that anyway. In fact, that's game 1. Yep. Okay. How do I want to deal with my opponent's pile O removal and value cards? I'm going to have the bigger threats, but I need to maybe have a plan for the Tarmogoyf and friends. I think I need to board in either Swords or that white card that news graveyards. And I can think about Plague Engineer too. On the draw, I think my discard effects aren't particularly potent versus this deck. So maybe let's do something like 4 and 2, and then I can get like Baleful Strix and stuff out of the way as 2. Plague Engineer is pretty acceptable as well. I could trim an Eater of Days pretty easily if I want to get a Plague Engineer or 2 in there, or if I want the 3rd Rest in Peace. I did not see Uro that game. If my opponent has Uro, I probably want the 3rd Rest in Peace. I don't know if they are. It's like I saw Wasteland and Basic Swamp, so they might not be on Uro. Let's submit this and see how I feel about it after playing a game. Okay. We just have 3 of the same side of the combo. I need to mulligan this hand. This hand is fine. Prismatic Vista, as of right now, needs to fetch a swamp so that I can play Hunted Horror a little bit later on. Alright, straight up Ancestral. Alright, cool. This means that I'm not facing down a Tarmogoyf this turn, so I won't have to like think about whether I want to Hushbringer or do something else. And this, my opponent might have enough controlling elements that I want to slow roll some of my stuff in many cases. Like, I saw Fatal Push in game 1. If I can play around that to some extent, I probably want to do so. Alright, 100% of the time I am getting a Swamp. I am just going to fetch now. Alright, I have a sexy little fairy. For those of you who haven't been around the channel for too long, I tried to make a thumbnail out of Hushbringer's art, and the lips were too sexy, and the YouTube algorithm, or whatever, like the automated thing that takes down inappropriate thumbnails, like flagged my video. So I had to like edit out the Hushbringer lips. Sure, that's fine. If I draw a land, I will probably just play Hushbringer. Sorry, if I draw a land, I will probably just play Rest in Peace. Then I can, yeah. And now I can Hunted Horror plus Hushbringer next turn. Let's just shut off the graveyard before my opponent does anything cool with it. One counter left on this thing. Reaping Tar Pit. Yeah, one counter left on that thing. Alright, they suspended another Ancestral. I think I just play out another one of these effects rather than walk into Abrupt Decay on my Strict Proctor, making my life very awkward. I will say, with the Thoughtseizes in the board, I can't just like check and see if the coast is clear. Makes just like going for things a little bit more stressful. But like the discard is not great, like versus my opponent who has like Strix and Shardless and Ancestrals. I may change things back on the play. But I'm guessing I lose this one. I mean, I might not, but it feels likely. Alright, so my opponent got their card out of their Baleful Strix. Alright. Not the best. I'm just going to be chilling for a little while until I draw a new Torpor Orb effect. I think my opponent has got this game down now, though. Like, they have 6 cards in hands. They have another Ancestral in 2 turns. They have 3 power on board, plus a bunch of cards in hand. I don't expect to win this one. I also think I need to try Hunted Horror. Like, if my opponent gets the value here, they get the value here. Yeah. But, like, I am just under the gun. Alright. I am comfortable conceding here. I am far enough behind that I don't think I'm coming back. Alright. On the play, how do I feel about the discard? My opponent just has, like, so much removal. Is it better to try to, like, punch a hole and just hit twice than it is to, like, edge against them grinding as the game goes long? It might be. I make this swap, and I keep 2 Rest in Pieces things that can answer Tarmogoyfs. Like, answer all of them. Although, I don't know, like, it does seem like my opponent... How many Goyfs do they have? Because if I just saw, like, a singleton Goyf or, like, one of 2 Tarmogoyfs or something, having Rest in Peace isn't great. But if there's a bunch, I really want it. I think I like the targeted discard of Thoughtseize, and now I have to decide between 2 Rest in Peace or 2 Swords to Plowshares. I think I want 2 Swords to Plowshares, because they also just get Baleful Strix out of the way. So maybe I go down 1 Eater of Days for another Swords to Plowshares. I find that acceptable. This hand doesn't do anything. Now, this hand is a little slower than I might like, but it's fine. It's just that, like, my opponent's fair hands will be good against this hand, but I don't think I try to mulligan to 5 for just, like, the nuts Dark Ritual hand. Land. Swords of Plowshares. I think I need the Swords of Plowshares. Let's get rid of a land. I fetch Scrubland if I... Alright, no early Ancestral this time, which is great. Four mana. I do this one. Actually, maybe that's not true because Force of Negation is on for this one. Alright, we'll try Hunted Horror next turn. My opponent just pitched a Strix. Not bad. Alright, Hunted Horror and Phyrexian Dreadnought on turn 3. Hopefully this is good enough, because the gas tank is empty over here, and opponent still has a bunch of cards. Don't hit a removal spell. That they hit Abrupt Decay. That's very good. I'll lose my Dreadnought here. Crash in for 7, but then my opponent can probably put up the shields. And 19 power in play. Dang it. If my opponent didn't hit Abrupt Decay there, well, okay, I should rephrase it. If my opponent didn't hit a removal spell last turn and I got to swing in with the Dreadnought once, I think this game's over. Swords of Plowshares would be an amazing draw. Land is not. So I think I just crash in with the Hushbringer and hold back Hunted Horror. I don't want to trade away my 7/7 body currently. The scales are tipping towards my opponent, but obviously I have a bunch of top decks that are just absolutely insane. Hunted Horror, Eater of Days, Dreadnought, Bob, Swords to Plowshares are all just top tier cards right now. Basically, any of this side of the deck is great. Any of this side of the deck is not great. All right. So now what? You've brainstormed. Fast turn. Fast turn. Fantastic. So the world that's spooky is where my opponent goes like Fatal Push plus Abrupt Decay, and then I don't get this Dreadnought. But if my opponent has like Fatal Push and Abrupt Decay, I think I should just lose anyway. Yep. All these selection spells definitely make me nervous. Like, if my opponent removes a Hunted Horror and just starts crashing in for 9, that's definitely a problem. Yeah. Alright. Plenty of good draws. But my opponent still has 2 cards, and I need them to be close to bricks for me to actually be okay. Hello? Opponent? That doesn't do it. Alright, so Hushbringer now has to chump block Tarmogoyf. 4 going to 7. I guess technically I could attack with the Hushbringer again, but it's probably not profitable. And letting the Hushbringer go means that I'm worse off against another Abrupt Decay or Assassin's Trophy type card. Eater of Days is the card that I want. That will be 9 power, just kill my opponent in one shot. What are we at? 8? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is my last turn on this world. A lot of circumstances. Given that, I will go ahead and fetch. Alright. That's it. 19 points of power in play on turn 3 was not enough to win this game, unfortunately, to my opponent's just giant pile of removal. Overall thoughts on this deck? This deck's great. Like, as far as like a, clearly not tiered deck goes, this deck does insanely powerful things very consistently. Just about every game, we made at least one of these large creatures by turn 3. Now, there were some times that we kept hands that did other things, like just stripped our opponent of resources or like were Bob-based hands. But like, we very effectively and very consistently executed a game plan. And I like that a lot about this deck list. I would not change much about this deck list if I was going to play this again. Like, I think the only question is this whole like Mother of Runes versus Hymn to Torok sort of thing. Like, is one of these better than the other? Is it worth it to just play Mother of Runes and make your Dark Rituals a little bit worse in order to protect some of these large threats? The answer might be yes. but then you're making yourself a little bit worse against other combo decks, because conceptually that's what we are. We are just an A plus B combo deck. Taking a quick look at the sideboard, I liked access to the things that I have here. Fracture has been one of those cards that conceptually I think is very good, but I just end up not casting it in the leagues that I'm playing. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on this card. Maybe I overestimated how good this is. It just seems like very clearly better than Disenchant since it hits Planeswalkers. But I find I'm not boarding this in a lot. But maybe that's just because of the matchups that I'm playing. Overall, though, I loved this league, and this was a lot of fun. To preempt some YouTube comments, I do not think that Enlightened Tutor is good in this deck. For you all, I think this will be last week, but last week I put out a build that just showed how bad Enlightened Tutor is in 2021 Legacy. Taking that turn off is just absolutely devastating when you need to be drawing live, and the tempo loss is very real. I do not think that this deck can afford that tempo loss. You just want to have those cards in your opening hands or draw to them early, or you want to be ripping them off the top and putting them into play immediately, not giving your opponent a turn to set up. So I don't think Enlightened Tutor is good here. I do very much think the black is excellent, much better than the Boros build that I tried previously, specifically because Dark Ritual with Torpor Orb is just absolutely so insane. If you are playing Paper Magic, remember Illusionary Mask is something else that you can consider in this build. And I ended up cutting the Manifest card, the little, I think it's Scroll of Fate, that's 3 tap, put a card face down as a 2/2. I ended up cutting that just because I wanted to just have these clean 2-drops that I could play, because it makes it easier to double spell with 2-drops. I hope that all makes sense and gives you all direction if you want to be trying out this deck. If you enjoy my content, please like, comment, subscribe. That sort of thing helps out a lot. And if you're really enjoying, consider doing a donation deck list in the future. If you really want to make me happy, the words dealer's choice in a donation, chef's kiss. All right, have a great rest of the night, folks.